this nugget, the fourth in a series of 5 on the project management processes, our focus is on project monitoring and control. Unlike the previous nugget on project executing, where the focus was on delivering the results of the project, the focus of project monitoring and control is on the project management activities involved with ensuring we know where the project is, ensuring we know exactly whether the project is on track, on time, on budget, delivering to the specifications of the scope statement, and that the customer is satisfied. We accomplish this through the following main processes. Integrated change control, ensuring that all changes to the project, however small, however insignificant, are properly documented and approved. This ensures that nothing is delivered on the final project, on the final deliverables, that is not consistent with the approved definition of scope as expected by the overall business environment. We ensure final acceptance of the project through scope verification, ensuring that the acceptance process is ongoing, that there are no surprises through the acceptance process, through project delivery, and that the business unit is reviewing incremental work so that the final acceptance, the final validation, the final verification of the scope is consistent with the project direction, and final acceptance should in fact be a given scenario that will be automatic. Project monitoring control is all about project control, ensuring that the scope is on track, that the project is delivering no more or no less than the original scope specification for the project, ensuring that the project is on budget, that the approved budget for the project is consistent with the current forecast total budget for the project, and ensuring the schedule, ensuring that the overall timeline for the project, again, is consistent with management expectations and the appropriate management and control where we have deviations due to scope, time, or budget variations. It's about HR management, working with the team, ensuring that the team is supported, and tracking and monitoring the team performance to ensure that we have total control over the project. It's performance reporting, gathering the facts, what work has been done, what work is remaining to be done, what are the estimates to complete, what are the issues, what are the problems, what impediments lie in the way of having our project successfully delivered, gathering all of the facts related to the performance of the project and consolidating them into the status reports that we're going to communicate as defined in the previous nugget in project execution. A key component to project monitoring and control is risk management. Ongoing validation of our risk identified items. Has this risk occurred? Is this risk new, transpired? What do we do with our contingency? How do we manage our contingency? What are the new risks being identified as the project progresses? Ensuring that we are proactively dealing with those gotchas that are going to come in and impact our project. And then finally, component of project monitoring and control is contract administration, the ongoing administration of any contracts we have for procurement of outside products and services for our organization. As just mentioned in the introduction, integrated change control involves managing all changes, large changes and small changes. Large changes need to be managed as separate changes. Managed separately, dealt with independently, large changes need to have a separate change document identifying the impact of the change, the ramifications of the change, and the approval for the change. So all large changes, and each project is going to have its own definition of large, but most projects define large as any change involving more than X days, any change involving more than Y dollars is considered to be a large change, and it needs to be managed separately. A separate document identifying the impact, the risks, and separately approving all large changes. Small changes can be managed with a running change. As we discussed in the detailed review of change management, a running change for this month, for this approved period of time, here are all of the small changes, and again, small is going to be project specific, but small is all of the changes that don't fall into the definition of large. So here are all of the tiny, insignificant changes. We need to change the color from red to green. We need to change the location of the plug from the left to the right. We need to change very minor, may have zero impact on the project budget, may have zero impact on the project schedule, but truly have an impact on the final deliverable. It's red versus green. It's managing the expectations, ensuring that everyone is aware that these small changes are taking place so they are documented and reviewed and not a surprise at the end of it. When I say running change, again, you're going to maintain a spreadsheet. You're going to have a running document that says, for this month, here is small change number 1, red to blue. Here is small change number 2, left to right. Here is small change number 3 through small change number 15. At the end of the period, at the end of the month, all of the small changes would be consolidated and presented as a single larger change for final approval and final acceptance. But all changes, not some, but all changes to any pre-approved, pre-documented project fact, scope, direction, team, quality, any change to any documented fact for the project need to be managed through the integrated change process. An integrated change process says it's integrated into the project. When changes are approved, it must be integrated into the schedule. Tasks must be added to the schedule so that team members can be assigned to work on the change. As tasks are introduced into the schedule, the end date for the project may change. Changes must be integrated into the schedule. Similarly, as changes are integrated into the schedule, there may be an impact to the budget. It's going to cost more dollars to complete this project as a result of the additional labor that's required to produce the change. Or it may have an impact to the budget simply because additional material, additional supplies must be purchased to satisfy the budget requirements or to satisfy the change requirements. Integrated in terms of the risk. Does introducing this change to the project add new risks to the project? In which case new risk plans need to be developed, potentially additional incremental value for the contingency fund or the reserve needs to be added to the project if the change introduces new risk, or potentially, and maybe hopefully, the change is going to lessen the risk for the project. As a result of introducing this change in scope, we've been able to eliminate risk, or we've been able to minimize risk impacts, again, in which case the risk contingency, the risk reserve should be reduced as a result of the change. And finally, what impact does the change have on the team? Do we need to change the complement of the team? Do we need to change the skill set for the team? Do we need to add simply more team members that have existing skills? So all changes to approved project facts, no matter large or small, develop an effective way for dealing with all changes and ensure that all changes are effectively integrated into the total project. The schedule, the budget, the risk, the team, the quality, the procurement, the communications, every aspect of the project needs to be addressed with the integrated change and addressed as a total project picture, not isolated changes. The next step to project monitoring and control is scope verification. Scope verification is not verifying that we're delivering to the scope of the project. That's scope control. Scope verification is ensuring that the deliverables satisfy the scope that final acceptance is going to be approved. So it's ensuring that each and every work product, each and every deliverable worked on for the project are accepted. It's the ongoing, it's the incremental review, it's the incremental process to ensure that interim deliverables, work in process, is reviewed with the business unit to ensure that yes, this work being produced satisfies our expectations, ensuring that the end product, when it is finally delivered, will satisfy total project requirements. So if you do good scope verification, ensuring that all interim, all work in process is reviewed on an ongoing basis, obtaining the formal acceptance when the final deliverable is presented to the business for formal final acceptance, it should be a routine matter of the fact, of course we're going to approve your project deliverable. Of course we're going to sign off your project. We've seen every piece of work that the project has completed to date, and there's absolutely no reason why I wouldn't be happy to give you formal acceptance. Ongoing scope monitoring and control in terms of the scope verification process, the interim review, the ongoing activities ensures that final acceptance of the process, final acceptance of the project deliverables final acceptance of the project itself will happen in a timely, efficient fashion. As indicated by the title for this project management process group, project monitoring and control, control is a key aspect for what we need to be doing in this phase of project management. We need to ensure we have total control, yes, I believe, total control over the project. As a project manager, we need to ensure we have absolute understanding of the scope. Is the team delivering? Is the team working on the tasks? Are the deliverables being produced by the team satisfying all of the scope requirements and only the scope requirements? We want to ensure there's no gold plating. We want to ensure there's no embellishment, that we are delivering exactly what the scope specifications are going to be. We need to have an ongoing understanding of how the team is doing. For each and every task that the team is working on, is the task being produced according to original schedule? Is the team spending more time, more effort on a task? Is the team spending less time, less effort on the task? We're going to effectively monitor and manage our critical path for the project, ensuring that any variations as the team is working on individual tasks, we can reflect and understand the impact it's going to have on the total project schedule. And the component of control that is probably most carefully monitored in all organizations is the budget. Budget dollars are very easily understood by everyone. Everyone in the business understands the impact of spending dollars on a project. It's dollars that's not available for company profitability, or it's dollars that's not available to be spent on other activities in the project. So as a project manager, we need to carefully, diligently monitor the scope, the schedule, the budget. We need to be prepared to work and rework the schedule, the scope, the budget on a weekly basis. So every week we need to understand, is the project on scope? Are we delivering the right tasks? Is the team delivering the work according to schedule? What impact does Johnny spending 6 hours more on a task? What impact does Mary spending 3 hours less on a task have to the total project schedule? Are they on the critical path? Do we have slack? What impact is this going to have on the project end date? Do we need to notify the business that the project is going to be late or early? What impact does the actual work being done on the project have on the overall budget? Based on the facts, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, on the work that is done for the project, you as a project manager will be working and reworking the scope, the schedule, the budget, realizing that we have the triple constraints, that if there's a change to one of these components, the project is going to deliver more or less scope, is going to have an impact on the schedule. The project is going to take more time to deliver more scope, or the project is going to take more budget, more dollars to deliver more scope. So we need to work and rework this from a project management viewpoint to ensure that the facts, the actual details we have from project delivery from our team members, and we're going to do this on a weekly basis, that we have firm control over the project. And we develop and understand that firm control because we're going to control it, we're going to manage it, we're going to work against our project baseline. The original statement of the scope, it's going to look like this. It's going to be a blue box. The original definition of the schedule, it's going to deliver on August the 23rd. The original definition of the budget, it's going to cost $50,000 to deliver the project. That is our baseline. This is what the scope looks like. This is the original project end date. This is the original project budget. As we get the facts on a weekly basis from our team, we're going to work and rework. We're going to understand the triple constraints, the relationship between scope, schedule, and budget, and we're going to monitor and rework that against our project baseline and work with our project sponsor to make any revisions necessary to satisfy the overall business requirements. An additional control element, quality control, is part of overall project monitoring and control. Quality control ensures that the project delivers what was defined, that the end product, that each end product, that all work products produced by the product satisfy the overall business requirements, i.e., that it is delivered according to the scope. We want to ensure that each word product, meets the scope and therefore will meet the acceptance criteria. The only way to ensure that all of the products produced by the product are going to address the scope and meet the acceptance criteria is to ensure that they're properly tested and evaluated. That each component has been reviewed internally within the team, been through the proper review processes, the walkthroughs and validation processes, to ensure that each deliverable is produced according to scope, that it's going to satisfy the business criteria, and it's the team's responsibility to review, test, and validate to ensure that, again, the quality control processes are being followed and that the project delivers exactly what was defined. The next step for project monitoring and control is human resource management, ensuring that the team is performing according to plan. This is tracking and monitoring team performance, getting from each team member on a weekly basis, or potentially as infrequently as bi-weekly, but I would like to suggest it should be as frequently as weekly, detailed status reports. What did they do? What's been done? How long did it take? What's left? Tracking and monitoring the team performance is getting the detailed status report from each and every team member on a weekly basis. What did you work on this week? What did you hope to work on this week but didn't get to because of other priorities, other challenges? What are the problems? What are the issues? What's impeding you from being successful on the project? And what do you plan to work on next week? Getting that information allows you to fully understand what each team member is working on a weekly basis, understand their mindset, understand what is impeding them, understanding what you can do to help them move forward. The next step to tracking and monitoring team performance is how long did it take? How many hours did it take to complete, or how many hours did they work on a specific task during the week? And probably more importantly is what's left. How much more time is going to take you to complete this task? And you're not asking them to do simple math. Original estimate minus actual work equals remaining. You're asking them to give an honest, this is the best information I have at hand based on the information I now have because I'm half through, three-quarters through, in flight for this task. How much time do I believe is left to complete the task? Taking all of that information and then tracking and monitoring the team's performance information, taking that back to the control component that we talked about a few moments ago in this nugget, and reworking the project schedule based on the facts that we have from the team performance. How is the project doing? Obviously, if you're asking your team members to tell you what are their issues, what are their challenges, what's preventing them from being successful, you as the project manager will be working with the team members to resolve the issues. Do you need more training? Do you need more tools? Do you need more access to systems? Do you need? You will work with the team, understand what their issues are, and work with the team to resolve the issues. Or, if the resolution of the issues is beyond your power and authority to control, you will elevate the issues through the communications process, through your performance reports, to ensure that other senior managers in the organization are aware of the issues so they can work with you to ensure your project moves forward, which is part of managing the stakeholders. Ensure the stakeholders, through performance reporting, which we're going to discuss next, ensure the stakeholders are managed and aware of all project information. This concept of managing the stakeholders is new to this edition of the PMBOK. And when you first think about it, how should you, or how can you, or what rights do you have as a project manager to manage stakeholders, realizing that many stakeholders are going to be more senior to you in the organization. They're going to be your managers, they're going to be your acceptors managers, they may be even people in the director's position or even the C position, CIO, CEO position in your organization. What right do you have as a project manager to manage the stakeholders? I would suggest you have every right. You have been empowered. You have been given the responsibility and the authority to deliver your project on time, on budget, to specification. Therefore, if you need the help of the stakeholders to resolve issues, to remove roadblocks, you need to tell them you need their help, and then you need to manage them to say, okay, I asked for help a week ago. Help hasn't been delivered yet, as politely as you can without being fired, of course. Help hasn't been delivered yet. Therefore, the impact on the project is it will absolutely be delayed by 2 weeks. Or the impact on the project is, as a result of indecision on making this purchase decision, we are going to have to pay a premium. So absolutely, as a project manager, as part of overall human resource management, you need to be managing your stakeholders. You need to be ensuring that you are telling them how the project is doing through performance reporting, which we'll discuss in just a moment, and you're ensuring that the issues, the actions you need them to take are being delivered in the timely fashion that you need to make your project successful. As just mentioned, the next step in project monitoring control is performance reporting. Gathering and consolidating all of the actual details, the status reports from the team members, so that you can communicate that information to the appropriate stakeholders in the organization. So it's tracking project status. We've already received detailed status reports from each and every team member. Team member number 1 worked on task A, B, C, D, E. Team number 2 worked on tasks M, N, O, and P. It's consolidating all of the detailed project status information from each and every team member, consolidating, bringing it up to the appropriate level of summary information, because typically a project status report is not going to have information at the task A, B, C, D. It's going to have information at the summary level A and the summary level M to provide the status information to your project sponsor, and maybe even at a higher level of summary detail for communications to higher level management in the organization. So it's tracking and consolidating the detailed project status from each team member to produce the appropriate status information, the appropriate project performance information for reporting to higher levels in the organization to all of your project stakeholders. Once you have detailed project status in place, it's important that you develop the project forecasts. In the control section, we discussed how you need to work and rework the schedule. Based on the facts that you now have from your team members, I am forecasting that the project will now cost an additional $200, $2,000, $20,000. Based on the status information I have from my team members, I am now predicting that the project will be 2 days late, 3 days late, 2 weeks late. It's developing the revised forecasts based on the facts that you have at hand from the detailed status reports that you have gathered and summarized as part of overall project performance reporting. It's to develop a new picture of where the project is now and what is the new completion. Based on the information I have at hand, based on the project forecasts, this is now how I am forecasting my project will complete. And when completion forecasts begins to look significantly different than the original project baseline, it's time for you to work with your project sponsor to take the appropriate actions based on the triple constraints of scope, time, and cost. What can be changed to allow you to improve the completion picture, assuming again that on average projects complete later and over budget as opposed to earlier and ahead of budget. The most important aspect of project monitoring and control is risk monitoring control. At least in my humble opinion, risk monitoring control, risk management, is the single most important thing that you as a project manager can do to ensure your project is going to deliver on time and on budget. Risk management is where we're going to deal with the unknowns. We're going to try to proactively eliminate, minimize the unknown problems that can happen on our project that's going to cause challenges, that's going to cause it to deliver late, that's going to cause it to be late. We need to effectively manage all of the risks, and instead of managing, maybe the best term is we want to, where possible, avoid risks. Because they're unknowns, some risks are going to be unavoidable. Some risks are also unmanageable. There is nothing you can do about the weather. If weather is going to cause your project to have problems, if as a result of weather there will be days your project cannot be worked on, there's very little you can do to eliminate the risk of bad weather. But we need to manage the risks. We need to avoid the risks. We need to ensure we're taking actions to deal with the risks. In order to do that, we need to act on the current risks. During project planning, we developed a list of all possible risks that could possibly impact our project. We then categorized and prioritized the risks and came up with the truly serious risks that we need to manage on their project. We then put them into a detailed timeline to determine when on the project the risks could possibly come to fruition. During project delivery, project monitoring control, we need to be acting on the current risks. Based on the timeline of when the risk is likely to impact our project, we need to now understand what risks are possibly going to impact our project at this moment and over the next near future, the next few weeks, maybe even the next month or the next 2 months. We need to be taking our actions now on the current risks to manage them, to avoid them, to eliminate, to keep them from happening. At the same time, we need to be on the outlook for new risks. As a result of the project progressing to this point in time, have new risks been identified? As a result of more information, as a result of potentially changes to the project, integrated change management, have new risks been identified? What actions do we need to take to deal with these new risks? How are we going to manage? How are we going to avoid the new risks? Again, eliminate the risks, put plans and strategies in place for your project to keep these bad unknowns from impacting your project. And the thing I enjoy most about risk monitoring and control is retiring of risks. I had a risk that my team was going to require training. As a result of the work the team is now performing on the project, I realize they have all of the skills they need to complete their tasks. The risk for training can be retired. It is no longer a risk for the project. There's one less thing that's going to keep me awake at night. So when we're managing risks, when we're acting on the current risks, we're identifying the new risks, and we're retiring risks, we're dealing with the part of our project called contingency. Or another term for it is often reserve. As we're in risk monitoring and control, we are consuming our contingency, we're consuming our reserve. So for risk number 1, we had a contingency of 5 days and $5,000. We're acting on the risk. We've determined that, yes, risk number 1 is truly going to impact our project at this point in time. Therefore, we're going to go to our contingency and we're going to remove 5 days and $5,000 from the overall contingency fund to take the actions to give us the schedule relief, to give us the budget relief as a result of risk number 1 transpiring on our project. The same thing when we're retiring risks. We realize that risk number 6, which had a 2-day, and for simplicity, $2,000 contingency reserve, and typically a risk is not going to have a direct correlation between days and dollars, but for simplicity I'm using the terms this way. Risk number 6 is being retired. It's not going to happen. The training issues on our team is not going to happen, so therefore we know we have extra contingency, extra reserve on our project that we can use to deal with the new risks, that we can accept new risks into our project without having to go back to management for additional contingency and additional reserve, because we have the additional contingency and reserve as a result of retiring risks. Risk monitoring and control in my humble opinion again, is probably the hardest aspect of project management to grasp because you're dealing with unknowns. You're putting together funds, you're putting together plans, you're putting together schedule relief for a series of unknown events that may or may not happen in the future. But without proper risk management and control, risk monitoring and control, without proper management and allocation of contingency and reserve in your project, you will have no recourse when bad things happen to your project. Unplanned bad things happen to your project. The only recourse you would have without proper risk management is say, the project is late, the project is over budget. With good effective risk management, we simply begin to consume, we remove the time, the dollars for risk number one from our contingency, and we're still able to report, risk has happened, a bad thing has happened on my project, but because of effective risk management, the project is still on track. That's what risk management, risk monitoring control is all about. The final aspect of project monitoring and control is contract administration, ensuring that all contracts, all purchases that your project is making, that your project requires, are properly managed and administered. It's ensuring adherence to the contract. And when I say ensuring adherence to the contract, I'm talking on both sides of the contract. Contracts are two-sided, hopefully fair documents. Your sellers, your vendors, have certain obligations to you under the terms of the contract. You will manage to ensure that your sellers are delivering what it is your project requires in accordance to the terms and conditions of the contract. Similarly, your company has certain obligations back to the vendors. Obviously, they are going to expect payments, but they may be also expecting feedback, turnaround, supplies, access to intellectual property, access to specialized equipment that your organization has in order for them to fulfill their side to the contract. So you need to ensure adherence to both sides of the contract. You can't treat contract administration as purely a one-sided street, one-way street, where the only issues are you making sure you get everything you need out of your vendors. Obviously, you want to do that, but you also need to ensure that you are supplying the support to your vendors that they need to deliver the goods, the services that you need for your project. The next aspect is obviously your vendors are going to want to be paid. So you as a project manager will work with your procurement department to ensure proper processing, prompt processing of payments, that you are giving your vendors the proper approvals that they need to allow them to continue to execute on the project. Effectively, with contract administration, you have become the customer. You are effectively the project sponsor. You are effectively the acceptor for the components of the project that your vendors are delivering. So you are delivering, administering, managing contracts as a mini project within your total project, where you have switched hats. Instead of being the deliverer to the business, through contract administration, you have become the acceptor, the sponsor for the components to the project that are being delivered by your vendors. This concludes our discussion on project monitoring and control, the fourth phase of the project management processes. In project monitoring and control, we, the project management team, are managing all aspects to the project. We're ensuring that all changes are properly processed and approved, and that all changes are fully integrated into our project plan. The impact the change is going to have on the schedule, the budget, the risk, the team are fully integrated into the total project picture. We manage the scope verification process to ensure that all deliverables will be accepted by the business unit, that all work being done on the project is being reviewed so that final acceptance will be forthcoming for our project. As mentioned in integrated change control, we must control all aspects to the project: the scope, the time, the dollars. All aspects to the project must be carefully managed, and any impact of project overruns, or hopefully you have some shortfalls where work is being done faster than planned, all aspects to the project based on the facts that you have from the team are being properly managed and controlled so that you have a current picture of where the project is, whether the project is in fact on time, on budget, whether the fact that the project is maybe running a little late, or hopefully you're on one of those special projects where the project is being delivered ahead of time and ahead of budget. We need to ensure we're working with the team and managing the performance of the team. We need to track and manage each and every task, how much time is being spent on it, understanding the issues, and resolving the issues that the team have to successful project delivery. We consolidate all of that information into project performance reports that we will consolidate, deliver to project sponsors, project stakeholders, senior management, so that all members of the organization are aware of the project and aware of the project status and have the information they need to help resolve any issues or any problems that the project is going to have. As discussed, I believe the most important aspect of project monitoring and control, and probably the most difficult aspect to understand, to grasp, is risk monitoring and control, risk management. Dealing with the unknowns, ensuring that you have proactive plans in place to eliminate, to minimize, to mitigate, to transfer bad things, the unknown risks from happening on your project, to minimize the impact to successful delivery of the project on time, on budget, to customer satisfaction. And the final aspect of project monitoring and control is contract administration, ensuring that all contracts, all procurement, all purchases for your project are being carefully managed and that it is a fair and equitable process for both your vendors and for your project itself, that there's true value on both sides of the purchase equation so that the project is getting value from procurement and that the vendors are happy dealing with your organization and would be more than happy to deliver future projects, deliver future services to your company. Project monitoring and control is the key aspect of project management where you are controlling, you are understanding, you're doing what you need to do to keep the project delivering on time, on budget, and dealing with any issues that come up through project delivery to address the shortfalls or should address the overruns for the project. And with proper performance reporting in place, you're alerting senior management and your acceptor to the information you have from project control so that you can take the appropriate project management actions, organizational management actions to bring the project back on target or potentially to adjust the target, to increase the budget, to increase the time, or to reduce the scope to allow the project to successfully complete. This concludes our nugget on project monitoring and control. I hope this video has been informative for you, and thank you very much for viewing.